Drive Time 91.3. Always on the cutting edge.
Nearly 3 years after local law enforcement officers dragged a naked Qolani from his home in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic in Cape Town, this has come back to haunt the city because there's a 1.4 million civil damages claim, and Mr. Qolani has turned down the city's offer of a settlement and is now seeking compensation for physical and emotional abuse, etc., etc., etc. Online is Daniel Lowe, attorney at Ndifuna, Ukwazi, to tell us more. Danielle, welcome.
Good afternoon, Shafiq. Thanks for having me.
Now, there's a lot of things that are surrounding this issue. I do believe, just to kick off, that this Wednesday, on the 8th of February, there will be some kind of a campaign to highlight Mr. Qolani's litigation against the city of Cape Town.
Yes, correct. So, Shafiq, on the 8th of February, this Wednesday at 10 o'clock, the various communities and organizations and movements will be meeting at the Civic Center in solidarity with the launch of Mr. Qolani's case, specifically because the communities are all in the situation that Mr. Qolani himself finds himself. So the communities are standing in solidarity, saying that Mr. Qolani is but one of the numerous examples of state brutality that gets inflicted on people who live in informal settlements, and hence these organizations and movements, Housing Assembly, Ndifuna, Reclaim the City, are all coming together to say that they are standing together with Mr. Qolani, and that this legal challenge that Mr. Qolani is bringing, even though it is in fact something that he is bringing in his own person, in his own capacity, it's in fact an example, and in fact it represents hundreds, if not thousands, of people who are currently situated in insecure tenure positions, people that live in informal settlements, homeless people. So Mr. Qolani, in fact, is representing all of these individuals.
Okay, now, I mean, how does one put a price on somebody's dignity who has been damaged? I always struggle to get my head around that one. I've never been part of the process. I'm not involved in the legal system. So how does one come to a price in scenarios such as what we're discussing?
Very good question. And, our courts have made attempts at trying to quantify an infringement of dignity. So there is a process, and our courts are bound by precedent. So what previous outcomes of similar set of facts have yielded would be what the court in Mr. Qolani's case would be bound by. So how the courts determine this infringement of dignity is they look at the set of facts that they are faced with in this current matter, and they will then find comparable cases which they can then rely on to say that, okay, in this case, with a similar set of facts, X amount was awarded. So hence we will award something similar. So it really is a thing of precedent. We call this stare decisis, which is that courts are bound by what other courts have said previously. So that's how courts get to an amount.
Yeah, that certainly is interesting. It's going to be quite fascinating watching the whole thing unfold. Another thing about litigation, it's expensive. I wouldn't have to convince you that because you're involved in it. So, let's say, for example, I'm awarded 1 million rand in damages. It's not a question that the very next day there's going to be a check for $1 million in my account, is it? This is a protracted, drawn-out process with a huge amount of costs. So the person who gets awarded the damages isn't actually necessarily going to be financially rich after the whole procedure.
Yes, so usually that is the case, especially if you are employing a private attorney that you have to pay. But in Mr. Qolani's case, we are offering the services pro bono, free of charge. So the award that Mr. Qolani gets will be his award, and the advocates that are currently working on Mr. Qolani's case, they are working on contingency basis, which means that it is only in the event that Mr. Qolani is in fact successful at the end of this protracted, as you are rightly saying, this could be a very, very long process. So it is only if Mr. Qolani is successful at the end of, let's say, 2 years, hopefully, not longer, that they will then receive their share. So Mr. Qolani will in fact get the majority of the compensation that is owing to him, and also being very aware of the fact that these trial proceedings do take a very long time. This is why we engage in extensive settlement negotiations prior to launching.
Yeah, because what was the city's offer? Because obviously it was turned down and it's now in court. What did the city offer that was not satisfactory?
So, Shafiq, unfortunately, I won't be able to divulge that information, given that those negotiations were happening without prejudice, and it's not something that I can enter into at this stage. Safe to say that yes, there were settlement negotiations, but that they were unsuccessful, and hence Mr. Qolani instructed us to launch these proceedings in court.
And of course, I mean, when we say protracted, what's going to happen, I can bet my bottom dollar, which I don't have, is that if there is an order against the city of Cape Town, of course, they will appeal it. So what we will have, so this is going to be kind of like a slap scenario. City of Cape Town, like any big organization, is going to drag this thing for as long as they can.
Look, we're hoping that the city actually nothing is preventing the city from still coming to the table and saying, look, we can settle this on more favorable terms. Nothing is preventing the city from still coming forward and doing this. So we are in fact wanting the best outcome for Mr. Qolani, and if that involves the city reapproaching us, we will welcome them, and then hopefully not have to engage in such a protracted legal battle of sorts.
And Danielle, just to change tack and to throw you another ball, it's not a curveball, but what would you like to hear from Ndifuna, Ukwazi, in Sona? I mean, land is a huge burning question, and one of the biggest burning questions are people who are desperate to find places to stay, because the reality is that the state is never, ever, ever going to be able to build enough houses. So we have to look for alternative solutions. So have you got a wish list? What do you want President Ramaphosa to say?
Look, I think in our context, in the City of Cape Town context, the first thing that we would want the president to take into account and pronounce on is the treatment of the homeless and the landless. I think that from the outset, you can't negotiate, or you can't engage in your civil liberties and just essentially your life if you are continuously being policed because you don't have a home, right? So the first thing would be a clear pronouncement on the fact that to be homeless or landless is not a crime, and then to ensure that the supply, in fact, matches the demand. Because, as you're saying, there is currently the city or the government's supply of housing is way too little to the need that exists, especially given the COVID-19 fallout. And as we've seen, the number of tented communities, homeless communities, setting up their homes for the mere fact that there isn't suitable alternatives. So the other thing we would say is that the state needs to invest in a variety of housing alternatives or housing options. So we know that social housing is one of the government's flagship projects. Social housing has a number of shortcomings and won't be able to service a large segment of our population. So housing options like transitional housing then, which is a housing form that enables, that offers more social assistance to occupiers. So transitional housing would be something that we would want the city and the government to invest more in. And these housing options are especially also suitable for homeless people or street-based people who are sitting with a variety of social problems, such as, for instance, drug use disorder or a mental health disorder. So transitional housing then would enable people then to have access to the necessary psychosocial support that it is that they may need, because it's not only the provision of a roof over your head. Often it's way more, especially given the levels of trauma in our society. So that would be the other thing. And then lastly, it would include more public-private collaboration, and especially the inclusionary housing work that Ndifuna Ukwazi has been assisting and has been advocating for. The city needs to get serious about the initiative of inclusionary housing. There is a report that Ndifuna Ukwazi has presented that you can find on our website. So there are a number of options available. It's just the political will that often escapes us. So hopefully that is something that we can look forward to the president to say.
Hopefully, Mr. Ramaphosa, take a listen. Danielle Lowe, attorney at Ndifuna Ukwazi, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. Bye.